Ocean Story is with you, and I have news stories that touch me. My wife told me that our neighbor was secretly cheating on her husband. My story is this: I live as if I have never seen anything. With my own eyes. It's strange, but I don't know all the people I know. Everything I am going to write is based on what my wife once told me. This situation concerns our neighbors, who live right across the street from us. They moved in relatively recently, about a couple of years ago. They are a young husband and wife couple. If I were asked to guess their age, I would think they are in their early 30s. We wave to each other when we see each other. We've even said hello a few times, but I still don't know their names. I just call them Theodore and Aurora. Obviously, Theodore goes to work earlier and comes home later, and his wife Aurora comes home a little bit earlier than him. Actually, my wife has a free or even floating schedule. One part of the week she works as an office manager, and the other part at home. It's interesting that my wife's home office is located on the facade of our house. From the facade, you can see the house opposite. She recently told me about it. When she is working at home, she sees a man coming into the house next door, and not infrequently after Theodore leaves for work or before he gets home. She swears to me that she once saw adult action between this stranger and Aurora because they didn't close the curtains then. At first, it was just as a joke, but as time went on and several months passed, my wife became more and more concerned about the situation. She started sleeping badly and often thought about what she was seeing. So now my wife asked that I talk to Theodore and tell him what was going on while he is not at home and his wife is having fun with some stranger right in their home and without even closing the curtains. But I refuse to go along with this idea because it's not our problem and we don't know if they have any agreement. The next week, after the conversation, my wife started taking pictures with her phone to show me the car and the guy himself. I almost had to fight with her to make her delete those photos. And from now on, the excitement turned into full-blown anger at me. My wife resented me and could not understand my actions. Basically, she was angry that I wasn't worried that Aurora was cheating on her husband Theodore. I told her that I have our life, so I just don't care what happens in their house. This answer made her so angry. She slept in the children's bedroom for several nights. I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong by doing my own thing, but I also slept alone for a few nights, and I'm fine. Andrew, why isn't your wife dancing there and singing like a sparrow? Why is it so important for her to intervene in the lives of these people? But she can't tell that man herself. I'm sorry, but your wife is just a stupid girl if she wants you to do all the dirty work for her. If this blows up in someone's face, it will be yours, not hers. That's her choice. Let her continue to sleep in the kids' room. You didn't do anything wrong. Violet, don't some people understand that sometimes people realize that their spouses are having affairs or that interfering in someone else's extramarital affairs? You personally can be affected, that you might end up on a dating site. I am very curious if there is something else going on in your marriage. What do you, as a husband, not know about? Your wife is acting inappropriately and strangely. It's like she's obsessed with another couple's relationship, and then she punishes you for not caring, and you don't want to get involved. Is everything okay in your marriage? Joshua, I think the wife needs to worry about her job and not to do something stupid like that. Making up love stories about other people's families in her head. It sounds like she's bored and she needs drama in her life. But this is your wife. She may perceive your disinterest in your neighbor's life as if you don't mind that his wife is cheating, and this can create some problems in your relationship. Next story. There is a girl at my university. She is 19 years old. She is an activist of the movement for a positive attitude towards fat people in Snapchat. She films herself eating every single day, how she twitches and makes the fat on her legs shake for the camera, saying how in love she is with her body. She also says all the time that being a fat lady is honorable and beautiful, that being fat is normal and not humiliating at all, and that you should be proud of it. This month, she wrote an essay for her public presentation in class. It was about how modeling should be illegal. After all the models who are at fashion weeks are thin and tall. They look like abnormals, not like normal fat girls, and in fact, everyone is uncomfortable looking at them. The whole task from the teacher was to speak calmly and effectively. My classmate, for example, spoke very angrily and aggressively, as if she was offended by those girls. I'm almost 1,000% sure that her whole speech, every word she said, was directed at me. Coincidentally, everyone at the school knows that I'm a fashion student, and she was looking at me strangely, like she was crazy. Her speech was not long. After the audience objected to everything she said, the teacher asked me what I thought about the arguments that the girl made. Because I go to fashion classes, of course, I answered that I thought it was pretty funny and very stupid on her part. During lunch, my classmate and her friends came up to me and my friends. She said that I was eating vegetable salad because I suffer from eating disorders. Of course, this was her assumption, and I don't really suffer from it. Then she said the following: "You are only allowed to go there because you are tall and thin, just so you know." This was all said in a humiliating tone and very loudly. Then I spoke to her. "You're not allowed because you're short and fat. What are you getting at and what do you want me to say?" Then she screamed in panic, "Your mask is off. I was just waiting for you to show your true nature and insult me." But listen, is it honorable and beautiful to be fat, as she always tells everyone? Personally, I don't see how her being fat can be an insult or a disrespectful attitude. I would get angry if someone called me fat or stupid, but that's because I don't see fatness as an honor, and she seems to think it is with her friends. So, that's true hypocrisy at its worst. She wittily stated, "The mask is off." It's obvious that she's trying to get you to respond with rudeness, to make you look bad, to prove a point. It's a pity that you managed to explain this to her in a normal way. Maybe it would have been wiser to just pretend that you don't understand what she's getting at and let her continue to make herself look like an insecure little girl. Lincoln, it is immediately clear that she is deeply unconvinced that she has problems with obesity and that her whole fat positivity excuse is just that. This is just a cover she uses to avoid shame or other negative feelings about herself from others. If she is so actively promoting body positivity, she needs to be reminded that being fat is not an insult, especially not a short one. I just want to congratulate her on her fashion show at the Fashion Month. Being a model is hard work. It takes a lot of effort to get out there and do what you can do. Natalie, I have a feeling as if you've both been giving each other passive-aggressive looks for a long time. Yes, of course, she was wrong when she came up to you and started commenting on your body, but from the way you say it, making the fat on her legs shake for the camera, I think you two could probably say or do some things. It's not a joke that you both profess toxic body image. You're just two sides of the same coin. Now I want to tell a different story. My youngest nephew's name is Christian. He will be 20 years old in December. My other nephews are Hudson, 26 years old, and Josiah, 28 years old. My sister is the biological mother of Christian. Hudson and Josiah, their father died. It happened when the children were very young. My sister married Christian's father 13 years ago, and she never officially adopted him, but she raised him as her own son. There was a lot of tension and conflict within the family. Christian, Josiah, and Hudson moved out of the house right after they turned the age of majority, which was 18. The relationship with my sister ended then. It also ended with Christian and his father. However, I kept in touch with the three of them constantly. I always knew where they were. I also knew that they were not interested in reconciliation. Ever since my sister took Christian into her care, she let him believe that she was his biological mother, and the other children are his biological brothers and sisters. And only 10 months ago, I realized that he believes that they also have a common father. My sister and her husband have always encouraged Christian to believe that his siblings love him and want to know him, that they care about him, and that one day they will have a wonderful and friendly relationship. For the past 3 years, he has been striving for this more and more. He mentioned this several times when we talked. We are with some family members. We tried to convince his mother and father, at least to tell him the biological truth, so that he doesn't face it from all kinds of people who would not care about softening his feelings, or to make sure that he is okay, and that he's okay with it. They just refused. I was shocked. For some reason, I thought they would agree. My sister said that there is no biological truth. Their parents, all three of them, these are their children, and that's the end of the discussion. Christian talked to me a lot about how he really wanted to find his brothers and sisters, and how glad he was that they were found in his life. He said that maybe he would be the one to reconcile their parents and themselves, and how he hoped to prove that they could never be replaced by him, and that he knew how difficult it must be when a child comes into the family at a time that is not good for the parents. He believed that this was the reason for the alienation, what his parents had told him a little earlier. I decided that he should know this, especially after that how my sister and her husband had refused to talk to him again. And this was already becoming a critical situation. So I was honest with him at that moment. My sister was not his biological mother, and his father was not their biological father. They were not blood brothers and sisters to him. I told him that I loved him, and that didn't make him any less my favorite nephew. I really didn't want him to be blinded. He was a little surprised not to get the answer he was expecting. He asked me if they really wanted to have a good relationship with him. I answered that they did not, and that was not true. The next day, he told his parents about the lie and about how they had been setting him up and fooling him all along. It was around noon. My sister called me and said that I was selfish and lost my temper when I started telling him about my parents, something I did without her consent and her husband's consent. I see that my nephew is struggling. This boy is trying to understand himself after he learned the truth. Since then, my sister's words hit him even harder and more often. Jana, so you say that your nephew spent most of his years considering himself responsible for the fact that his family was broken up, and he struggled with this guilt every day. And your sister and her husband just let him relive it over and over again. How poor that boy is. He would have spent his whole life trying to cure something with the wrong medicine. And what would have happened if you hadn't been honest with him? Now, he can deal with this new truth when he talks to his brothers and sisters. If he continues to talk to them at all, the only thing that matters is that he knows the truth. Jace, to be honest, it's important for other reasons. For example, from a medical point of view, I can't even believe it, how selfish his father and mother were. They not only lied to him, but they also put the blame on him for just being born. How could they honestly see what would happen in the future? Emery, I can't stand it when people try to say that it's none of your business and that you should stay out of it. When people actively hurt someone, it could have been much worse if you hadn't intervened. It's a shame that my nephew didn't hear this earlier. The mother is only angry because she was exposed, because she knows that this is exactly how she screwed up. I feel sorry for all three of them. She and her husband are the worst parents for their children. Such lies always come out. Better sooner than later, because there may be an even worse time. Niva, especially since he is already quite close to adulthood, so that his sister's opinion is no longer so important to him. And it sounds like your sister is caught up in a fantasy where she has a happy family, and it's a strange fantasy to have a happy family, especially when two of your children have drifted away from you. And you teach the third one that it is his fault in this situation. It was cruel and wrong to lie to him about his background and to put him in harm's way when he finally tracked down the other real members of his family. You did him a good favor by telling him the truth before he embarked on this journey, the journey of finding his great-grandparents and loved ones. My next story. I have been in a relationship with my boyfriend for a little over 3 years. I am currently 8 months pregnant. 3 days ago, my boyfriend and I went to his brother's wedding. I am not very close to most of his family, but we grew up in the same small town, so I knew a lot of people who were at the wedding. At first, I didn't tell many people about my pregnancy because I was very afraid of a miscarriage. My husband and I decided to tell only close friends and relatives about our child. And when I post photos on social media, I put on clothes that are much bigger than I am. I have to pose so that my stomach is hidden. For my wedding, I wore a loose-fitting dress, but if you looked closely, it was still very noticeable that I was pregnant. Since I kept my pregnancy quite hidden, it was the first time for many people, and they were all very surprised. So almost the whole evening people came up to me with congratulations. I could see that his brother was upset about it, so I tried to downplay it when my friends came over, but there was nothing I could do about it at the time. The next morning after the wedding, my boyfriend's dad called him, furious. He was angry that I didn't tell people anything in advance because I was taking attention away from his brother all evening. After all, it was his holiday, not a day of showing pregnant women. I feel sorry for his brother, but I don't think I should announce my pregnancy, not until I'm ready. And I'm not really sure how I could tell people in advance, probably other than collecting the entire guest list. which is just ridiculous to think about. Thank God, my boyfriend is on my side, but his dad, brother, and probably many other members of his family are upset with me and probably not happy that I kept my pregnancy a secret from everyone. A little information to clarify. The bride knew, all the closest relatives knew about the pregnancy. Even close friends knew about the pregnancy. My future boyfriend and I grew up in the same city. When we were teenagers, we went to the same school, but we started dating and even became real friends. Only after we graduated from the local university, many of the guests at the wedding knew us, but my boyfriend and I hadn't seen them for years. We kept it a secret until we were 23 weeks old. Only then did our closest relatives and a few friends find out about the pregnancy. And since then it's been more like that we didn't try to tell people about such an event. The expectation that people will not notice absolutely anything in the world except for the groom during the entire celebration. We have to be honest. No one cares if the groom attracts attention. It's even a ridiculous thought. The groom can't talk to all the guests at once. But obviously, when he is not talking to people, then they should all look at him admiringly, as if he were a model on television, and whisper to each other about how wonderful and incredible he is. Ryan, you didn't make a big announcement. He invited you, and you were just there, like a pregnant person. If her husband's brother can't handle your existence at the expense of his weak little ego, why did he even allow you to come to his party in the first place? This is a new concept, stealing the groom's attention just because you are talking to someone else to congratulate him. This sounds very strange and even ridiculous. Coming from an adult, people should not spend the entire wedding time just following the groom with their eyes. Audrey, of course the couple is the center of attention during the ceremony and key moments of the ceremony, but the rest of the time, you just drink, socialize, and enjoy people you haven't seen in a long time. This is the topic of insecure and foolish brides who think they should be the center of attention. Apparently, at every moment, they are pathetic. Everyone will still remember this day as a wedding day, and not just as the moment when a pregnancy was discovered that no one knew about. Caleb, girl, you don't have to tell anyone about the baby. You told your immediate family and your close friends. What else were you supposed to do? Write about it in a family magazine? Put an ad in the local newspaper? Run ads on all the websites? Instagram has no right to announce our personal life. People with whom we have no contact, they have no right to know about our lives at all. And a disturbing pregnant woman, in general, she should not be obliged to announce her pregnancy to anyone, not even to your friends, to calm their excessive curiosity. A story that really surprised me. I was a bridesmaid recently at my best friend's wedding. I was the only bridesmaid, so a lot of bridesmaid duties fell on my head. She and I have been best friends since we were young, so I easily coped with all this work. Let me say a few words about myself. I have some physical health problems, which lead to severe fatigue and headaches. I feel these unpleasant symptoms almost every day. 2 days before the wedding, I practically organized her reception on my own while she was talking to her family and friends about the wedding, which was great. But when I was already finishing, my friend said she needed my help to sew a zipper on her wedding dress. It happened because her mom hadn't finished alterations yet. I said that, of course, I would help. She said would call her mother so that she could explain to me what needed to be done. I had a bad feeling about this. After all, it was only a zipper that I knew how to alter, and it hardly needs any explanation. But I could see that my friend was very nervous. After all, it was her wedding dress. It was not just one zipper. We went to my friend's house, and we called her mom. In addition to the zipper, it turned out that it needed to be hemmed. 4 buttons, fasteners to attach the veil. It all had to be hemmed quickly, as well as the lacing of the corset, which needed to be tightened a bit. I was furious at that moment, but not at my friend. I realized that she didn't know how bad the dress was, because it was her mother's job who had actually altered the dress. My friend thought she could save money somehow, so she bought a cheaper dress, thinking that her mother would be able to alter it and make it beautiful. I hemmed the dress and stayed up until 2 in the morning. And then I had to wake up at 7 in the morning to be ready for the wedding. After the morning preparations, as we were getting ready for the wedding, my friend told me that she forgot to ask me for one more thing. Because she was tired in the evening, she asked me if I could sew blue patches on her garter belt. as a surprise for her beloved fiancé. Of course I agreed, although I was not very happy because my hands were still sore from sewing until the morning, so we finished the wedding preparations. My friend promised me that I would be able to take a little nap because there are a few hours before the evening reception and the wedding, lunch and a reception. That's basically all that kept me up at the time. But then the plans that were thought out change. Now she needs me to stay with her and not go to bed. I decided to stay because I don't want to leave her alone. I started drinking too much coffee, trying to stay human. Although my body hurts and I am very exhausted, despite this, I try not to fall asleep at the reception and wait until the food is served. Then I will eat it and the first dance will begin. And then I think I've seen all the important moments. And I go to my friend, telling her that I need to go home to sleep because I literally cannot stand on my feet and keep a clear mind anymore. After I told her that, she got angry with me, saying that I shouldn't leave, that she needed me to stay with her because I am the only bridesmaid, and that's why I have to stay until the very end, in case she needs me, and I'd also have to greet guests who are late for the wedding. I was really upset. I had to tell her to pull herself together and think carefully, pointing out everything I've done for her so far and that I love her, but it has limits with my health. Of course, I'm not up for a party anymore. I left and slept for about 16 hours. I woke up the next day with a headache and various pains all over my body. My friend was upset, thinking that I had ruined her day and that I was selfish and a bad maid of honor, and all because I didn't put her first. She said she needed me by her side and that a true friend would have prioritized her for the wedding. That was the speech she gave me. For going on vacation, is it fair? Sophie, but she was using you as a seamstress from the shop or as a wedding planner and as a maid to greet all her guests. I'm not saying you ruined her day. She ruined it by using and abusing her loyal friend. Axel, I guarantee you that you have avoided another late night by being with those who would clean up all the aftermath of the wedding celebration. She would have trusted you to be the leader. Kaylee, the leader of the cleanup crew, was supposed to be. When I got married, I also had one bridesmaid. She literally walked me down the aisle, and then she held my bouquet and wedding ring until it was time for the wedding. Jose, if I had known I was going to have a beautiful slave for the whole day, I would have treated her much better and kinder than your friend did. Ariana, that's one thing. You shouldn't have left until the last minute. This is the bride's dress just like the garter. She could have asked her bridesmaids for help, her fiancé to help with the preparations. Perhaps she could have asked her mom or aunt to do this earlier and about greeting the guests. The bridesmaid could have asked other friends to greet the late guests, expecting your friend to do it all, whereas all the bride had to do was to smile and have fun. How stupid it all turned out. After this, I would not consider this person my friend.